Welcome to another episode of Art and Prayer. I am Reverend Rob McPherson. Today we will be praying with Jihua's painting, Wedding at Cana. Before we get to the painting, let me share with you how prayer brings calm into my life. There are times when I get caught up in worries. There are times when I get stressed out by all the things going on in my life. A few weeks ago, my microphone stopped working and I had to buy a new one, and it meant that I would not be able to record when I had planned to. The situation made me cranky. Things were not going the way I planned. It is in those moments when I need to step away from the things that are stressing me out and allow myself to be in the presence of God. I have worked on this process of stepping away for years. What I do is focus on the peace of God. I find myself drawing in the presence of God and God's assurance that although things may not be the way I want them, God is still at work. As I am reminded of that, the troubles of the world grow less intense. They do not go away, but they are balanced by a powerful tranquility from God. Today's painting gives the same feeling to me. It is a moment of stress, but Christ is present and the result will be peace. Let me read the scripture as we look at the painting. This is John chapter 2, verses 1 through 10. There was a wedding at Cana in Galilee, and Mary, the mother of Jesus, was there. Jesus and his disciples had likewise been invited to the celebration. At a certain point, the wine ran out, and Jesus' mother told him, "They have no wine." Jesus replied, "Mother, what does that have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." She instructed those waiting on tables, "Do whatever he tells you." As prescribed for Jewish ceremonial washings, there were 6 stone water jars on hand, each one holding between 15 and 25 gallons. "Fill those jars with water," Jesus said, and the servers filled them to the brim. "Now," said Jesus, "draw some out and take it to the caterer." They did as they were instructed. The caterer tasted the water, which had been turned into wine, without knowing where it had come from. The only ones who knew were those who were waiting on tables, since they had drawn the water. The caterer called the bride and groom over and remarked, "People usually serve the best wine first. Then, when the guests have been drinking a while, a lesser vintage is served. What you've done is to keep the best wine until now." Jihua is known for his masterful use of composition. This painting has a clear distinction of what is happening inside at the wedding, what is happening outside where Jesus stands with those who wait the tables, and the greater outdoors. An important part of Taoist tradition of painting where people live in balance with nature. If we look inside, we see the wedding party. Guests seated at a large table with a couple of people serving. On the table are the dishes of food, chopsticks waiting to be used, and cups of wine. If we look at the faces, each of the people is distinct. In the back, through the window, we see Mary, evident because of the halo. Just outside, on a porch, Jesus is instructing the servers. What is happening here is clearly unseen by the wedding guests. But we get to watch as the servers carry buckets of water and witness one man pour the water into ceremonial jars. Behind the porch, there are beautiful flowering bushes, and further to the right, a stand of old trees. They give a feeling of peace and serenity to the whole painting. Even though this could be a moment of stress, by dedicating half of the canvas to a natural scene, the composition suggests a greater calm. Look over the whole painting for yourself. Where is your eye drawn? Why do you think your eye is drawn here? If this part of the painting is representative of your life, what does it tell you? Is there something that you need to bring to God out of this portion of your life? Lift that to God now. Know that God has heard your prayer. Listen now as I read the scripture again. This time, don't listen to understand the scene or even to help you understand the painting. Listen instead for what God might be saying to you. Are there words or phrases that sound like an answer to your prayer? There was a wedding at Cana in Galilee, and Mary, the mother of Jesus, was there. Jesus and his disciples had likewise been invited to the celebration. At a certain point, the wine ran out, and Jesus' mother told him, "They have no wine." Jesus replied, "Mother, what does that have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." She instructed those waiting on tables, "Do whatever he tells you." As prescribed for Jewish ceremonial washings, there were 6 stone water jars on hand, each one holding between 15 and 25 gallons. "Fill those jars with water," Jesus said, and the servers filled them to the brim. "Now," said Jesus, "draw some out and take it to the caterer." They did as they were instructed. The caterer tasted the water, which had been turned into wine, without knowing where it had come from. The only ones who knew were those who were waiting on tables, since they had drawn the water. The caterer called the bride and groom over and remarked, "People usually serve the best wine first. Then, when the guests have been drinking a while, a lesser vintage is served. What you've done is to keep the best wine until now." What words and phrases felt like they were especially for you from God? As you think about those words and phrases, can you find evidence of them in the painting? What might God be trying to tell you through those words and phrases and the evidence you find for them in the painting? keep listening as God speaks to you. Let the word suggest a response or an action that God is encouraging from you. What is that response or that action? Open yourself to God's peace. Remember that Christ is right there in the middle of it all. Take a deep breath and draw in that peace one more time. Now, let us finish up our time of prayer, holding on to God's words to us. My experience of praying with this painting was that I often do not see what God is doing in my life. I am busy with life, but Christ is standing nearby orchestrating miracles. And God is, as God has always been, faithfully intertwined with creation. Sometimes God tells me, you have to step outside of your own little world to see what I'm doing. Admittedly, your experience of the painting is probably different than mine, but I wanted to share with you where my heart and mind went as I prayed with this painting. It can be helpful to hear what another person has experienced as we try to make sense of our own times of prayer. It can even be helpful to discuss our reactions with others. Such conversations can deepen what we have gleaned from God. Thanks for taking time to be with me. If you found this episode meaningful, I hope you will share it with someone else that you think would benefit from it. Until next week, be blessed.